Welcome everyone to another episode of Happy Hour with Fernway Collective. Tonight, thank you to Denise Kelton for the suggestion. We're going to be talking about mythology and folklore of the moon. And we have with us Deborah Maroulis, a YA author and mythological studies professional extraordinaire. She teaches high school and college courses and has a master's degree in mythological studies and is currently writing several YA books at the same time.
Yep.
And
Super fun.
we also have Hannah Irish with us, also has her master's degree in mythological studies. And she is a jack of all trades, a theater tech, incredible human being. And then tonight we also have Jenisa deCastro with us from JDC Voice, and she will be here to share some Hawaiian mythology about the moon. Nisa, you want to say a little something about yourself?
Or do a little shimmy.
Do a little shim shake?
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Jenisa. I own a business called JDC Voice. And my formal offer says that I help motivated singers, entrepreneurs, and performers conquer their fear and find freedom of the voice, body, and mind with the JDC Voice and Wellness Method, which basically incorporates vocal technique coordination in combination with mental health and energy. But today I'm actually talking about a different side of myself, which is also a huge part of who I am. I've been Polynesian dancing and singing since I was 2 years old, probably since even before I was born. But a little background on that, and I think she's coming in right now. My mom owns a Polynesian dance studio called Kamakani Komohana. And so we've been learning about dance, song, and culture from the islands of Hawaii, Tahiti, Samoa, and New Zealand as well, since, like I said, before I was born. So it's pretty much, ingrained in my system. This is my mom. Hi. She wanted to come say hi since this is her expertise as well. But
yeah,
we're going to be sharing a little bit on the goddess Hina today, which we're excited about.
I'm very excited. And I do have very strong memories, Nisa, of you sitting on the side of the stage in a baby carrier. You couldn't have been more than 6 months old. So you've definitely.
Oh my God.
And my mom remembers me kicking in her stomach while she would do Tahitian solos on stage. So
I would be dancing with her. As soon as the drums beat, she'd be going like this, and I'd go, whoa. So she was dancing in my stomach for sure.
I love that. That actually brings us to the first sort of like mythology about the moon. That's a good segue. There is a lot of, I guess you could call it anecdotal evidence, that the full moon causes women to go into labor or give birth. I spoke to Leah Bergquist. She is a birth doula and childbirth educator in Long Beach, California. She runs a great company called Your Natural Birth. And she said she has definitely noticed an uptick in onset of labor and delivery during the full moon. And most maternity wards, at least across the US from the research I've done, have said similar things, that they all know, like, okay, the full moon's coming, like, get ready for a busy night. And my daughter was born under a full moon, under the full beaver moon is what it's called here in the States. Love that. And last week was our full pink moon. Deborah, Jean, do you know if any of your kids were born on a full moon?
That's a good question. I have to find out and see. Because like Sky and Jenisa were both born early, and Duke was born right on his due date. That was so weird. But yeah, I should check that out for sure. And you know what is a trip? Every time it's Duke's birthday, there's a full moon. And I didn't realize.
And his birthday's
also. Is he
also
secretly a werewolf?
Probably.
I wouldn't put it past him.
He's hairy enough.
Both my kids were born on full moons. I just checked.
Really? Oh
yep. Yeah.
For
Thanks,
this really
Artemis.
small sample size, we're
Yeah.
batting 3 out of 6 right now. That's
Yeah.
it's pretty good.
That's crazy.
Wow. I got to try.
Speaking of crazy, where does the word lunatic come from?
From the moon.
Oh, Luna.
I had never thought about that
Oh
before.
my God.
Yep. That's right.
Because it really affects the emotions and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ocean.
Yeah, there's this idea that since the moon can control the tides on Earth and our bodies are made mostly of water, that the moon phases are responsible for some of the ebb and flow of liquids in our system.
I absolutely believe that.
Yes.
Scientifically unclear, but they haven't been able to disprove it. So that's something.
Just ask anyone who works in an ER. They'll tell you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even some police officers say that they prep for a full moon because they have busier than usual nights regularly during full moons,
Wow.
because it increases that connection. I don't know, like it turns people into lunatics.
Mostly women. I don't know, but I think it has effect on women because maybe because the moon is I know in the Hawaiian mythology, the moon is a woman, and
Associated with the feminine energy.
right, and
Mm-hmm.
Cancer is a moon sign, and Cancer is supposed to be nurturing and total family and stuff. So I think it does have a lot of has to do with women too, how they react. I don't know about men, how much more men, but I know it does with me.
We have our experiences.
I know.
That's all we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I think that's a great disclaimer that like we're talking about our experiences and mythology and folklore, so we're not necessarily speaking to everybody or everybody's experience. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, women's menstrual cycles have often been associated with the cycles of the moon. That's
Right.
been around for quite some time. So there's that too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So ancient organisms were likely more influenced by lunar cycles, and some scientists say that the adaptation for this is still in our genes, coming from like an evolutionary perspective, and say that human responses to the moon can be a relic from our evolutionary past. So it's part of that, like we are made of stardust, right, and connected. And like Deb was saying, the time between a new moon and a full moon is 29.5 days. And that's the exact same as the average menstrual cycle for women under 35.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it gets all messed up once you get past that.
Once you peak.
Yeah, just like moon what?
So there are some marine organisms that still rely on the moon for synchronizing their reproduction. So that's like a clue for us. And then in the 1950s, there was a Czech doctor named Eugene Jonas, and he stumbled across an ancient Assyrian astrological text that states that women are more fertile during certain phases of the moon. And he created this whole like family planning method along this hypothesis.
Wow.
And had patients like told patients that they ovulated at the same time, like when the moon was in the same position of when they were born.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
I'm
interesting.
fairly certain that that's been disproven, but
No.
that was, oh no.
No, I don't think that.
So then more recently, there was a researcher, I'm going to butcher this name, Helfrich Forster and her colleagues, that had a really small sample size of only 22 women, but they recorded their menstrual cycles from between not their age, but up to 32 years of having a period. She has data for the same women. And it showed that their periods would coincide with the onset of the full moon and the new moon, but like never anytime else. There was like no pattern anywhere else. But of course, then there are other like larger studies that found no correlation between the menstrual cycle and the lunar cycle, but they didn't separate by age. And so that data could be a little funky.
I know that like when things are happening and I feel crazy or stuff is so crazy,
You
just
feel lunar?
around me, I check to see if there's a full moon, and there usually, yeah, it's because it's lunatic, like you said. But I do, I check to see if there's a full moon, and there usually is. It's like so the energy is so different and so crazy.
Yeah, it definitely is. So like my background's in anthropology. So anthropologically speaking, this isn't a very, how do I want to say it? They don't see a lot of merit in it outside of a mythological lens, just because in anthropology, especially physical anthropology, the question always is there an evolutionary advantage to this? And what would the advantage be of getting your, like having your period synced with the moon? Like there's not really a good real reason for it, unless every woman like ovulated on the full moon so you could see each other by the moonlight and everybody knew that that was the time, you know. But of course we know that that's not the case.
But
Keep turning my chair.
sorry, but there has been studies, or even if you're with your friends, with your girlfriends
Mm-hmm.
or family, that you guys are all on the same cycle. It's
Cycle.
yeah, we're always starting at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked at a Victoria's Secret for a while, and there was 18 of us, and all of us that we eventually all synced. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, the bathroom was just not pretty that week.
So I feel like that would argue against your menstrual cycle syncing with a specific time in the lunar cycle, right? If you could adapt to the people around you.
Yeah, for sure. And interestingly, the moon in way ancient societies was more associated with male, like with the gods, and the sun was associated with the goddess. And it wasn't until patriarchal religion started showing up that it switched. It was Hathor and Isis. That's what started the switch.
Really?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us more about that, Deb?
Maybe. I don't know. It's been about a year since I've talked about it, but Hathor was the bull goddess, right? And her companion was the moon, or the moon bull. And right, is that right, Hannah? Yeah. And it wasn't until the Isis and Osiris stories started coming about, when she was searching for Isis after he was, tricked by was it his brother or cousin? I think it was brother.
Set.
It's always
his brother, yeah.
It's always the brother. And it's always the brother. But yeah, he measured him, for the coffin, right? And it was exact and all that. And they were like, get in the coffin. And like, they cut him up, and she had to go search for him. And then eventually.
Wait, I'm sorry. You're leaving out the most important part of that story.
Oh, okay. Sorry. She found every part of him but his penis. And
so she fashioned a new one out of the clay from the banks of the Nile and attached it. And that's right. Is the story of the world's first dildo.
It is. Thank you, ancient Egypt.
You're welcome.
Yes, we're thank you for that. And wasn't it like a fish swallowed it, right? And like
it had
somebody
been
caught
eaten
the
by
fish. Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, hey, it's his penis," and like they reattached it, and then they had the baby in the reeds. But yeah, good stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of wood in that story, actually. Oh. There's the tree, right? Because he was in the tree, and like they made the coffin into like this weird statue thing in the house. And then she's like, "Hey, sorry to bug your interior decor, but that's my husband. Can I have him back?"
So this is a small sample of what it's like to take a class with either Deb or myself. This is how our mythology classes usually go.
This is pretty much how all my classes go. It's just really sad. But yeah, so yeah, that's it was originally and then I think it's also because Isis eventually transfers or kind of morphs into Demeter, right? They become like they're all kind of aligned from the same goddess mythology. And she becomes because it's all like fertility, it's all about harvesting, and it's all about the 9-month cycle of the earth, right? And that becomes the basis of keeping track of time, keeping track of when to plant. So you have the sun rotation, and then you have the moon rotation, and the moon is more like every 28 to 30 days versus every year, right? That and originally, time before our 12-month calendar, the calendar was a 9-month calendar, so, or 10-month calendar. And so that also made things a little bit easier to track when it comes to telling all of these stories mythologically. And then the moon becomes more of a factor even then.
Wow.
See, I know stuff. I don't screw it
You're
up all the
smart
time.
one.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Jenisa and Jean were saying about how the moon is typically a feminine energy. That is, leave it to the patriarchy, right? Always screwing things up.
That's right.
But in America, we have this idea of the man in the moon. Has anybody ever, if you believe, that's put a man on the moon. Never mind.
That's a little different. And then, like, the man in the moon was made out
me.
of cheese or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I would assume Swiss cheese with the holes, right?
Right? Yeah.
Because of the craters. I always
Yeah.
thought it was a Swiss
Yeah, there was
variety.
a bedtime story that.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was a children's book.
Yeah. How rude! They even stole the moon from us.
I know.
They force us on it and then they take it away.
That though.
Rude.
So, has anybody actually seen the man in the moon when you look up at the moon?
Oh, yeah.
Only in movie credits.
Man in the
So here is
Oh my God.
an outline of what it's supposed to look like. I screenshotted this from a little like show about the moon that Hannah recommended to me. So this is how they say that this is where the man in the moon is seen.
Face?
Yeah, so like the two eyes and the little nose and the face, and they're different like craters on there. I know, like a little emoji, like he's singing.
Yeah.
But it's funny that we would call that the man in the moon, right? Because it's clearly just a face. So what makes it masculine when the moon is traditionally associated with feminine energy?
I think I have seen.
You got a chair and then you sat outside of the camera.
I also just don't understand how somebody looked up at the moon one night and was like, "Oh, look, there's a face."
Yeah. Where did
Like
So
that.
here it is, like lit up different,
There it is.
Yeah, my first inclination would not be, oh, that's a face.
right?
No.
Isn't there
And
a?
there,
Go ahead, Hannah.
I don't know how many North American indigenous mythologies include this, but when I was actually watching this little episode on the moon the other day, I was watching with a friend of mine who's Mexican, and they were talking about how in Mexican culture, they see a rabbit. And he was like, yeah, it wasn't until I was like in high school, people started talking about the man on the moon. And I was like, what are you talking about? We see a rabbit.
Here's the rabbit for you.
Yeah.
More sense.
But again, this is like the constellations, right? Like it's humans making meaning through myth and story and helping us feel connected and
There's
part of
there's a
something
science
larger.
to that too. There's a psychological science that talks about needing to create order, right? Our brains are wired for story. If you read anything by Lisa Cron, she talks about all of how our brains are wired. I think one of her books is called Wired for Story. And she talks about how that's how we were taught, that's how we survived, is we memorize things and learn things through story. And so our brains are wired to create order out of things. And so if we see all these spots, these light and dark, we want to make something of it.
That's what's a trip about the Hawaiian and Polynesian culture. Everything was handed down by story. And when we dance, we tell the story. There was no written history. So you learn through song and dance. And and you have to tell the story. That's so interesting.
Yeah, and I love that idea too. I think this was something that Hannah mentioned in the previous conversation was that like mythology in general is a means in which humans were trying to create meaning out of what they were experiencing. And I thought that was such an interesting way to think about it. I'd never thought about myths in that way before. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, in our myth that we're going to share with you today, the Hawaiians would see Hina and her gourd in the moon. So I'm curious for that. I've never actually seen it.
Yeah.
Outline that real quick, Randall.
I'm doing it. I literally am already starting.
Gourd.
Read your mind.
Yeah, we'll have to find that.
The internet is just such an amazing tool, right? Like we're all in different places and we could get together and have this conversation and access the entirety of the world's knowledge at our fingertips live while we're having this conversation. Like it will never stop being amazing. And I just, as much as the internet is a curse, it's such a big blessing.
Okay. All of Gen Z just rolled their eyes at us.
I know.
But
Hashtag, I may as well be a boomer, but it's incredible. It is. It's like the Library of Alexandria. Like it's just amazing. Like this is our modern. Okay,
Like,
I'll get off my soapbox.
right now, this is going to be such ancient history, probably in 5 years.
I know.
I know.
Honestly.
What dinosaurs? They had a live Zoom meeting. Where were their holograms?
Exactly.
For real, though. Oh my
Okay, stop. I'm having an existential crisis. I'm going to start seeing myself in the moon if you don't stop.
That is a trip. That's right. Hina saw.
Can you tell us the myth though? I'm dying to hear it.
Yeah. Are y'all, Nathan, Jean?
Yeah.
She's gonna probably take over.
No.
But
Well, you
I'll start it out.
But there's so many different myths about the goddess of the moon is called Mahina, and there's so many different myths from all the different islands in the Polynesian islands. So they all have different stories. But she's gonna tell you
we're
one.
gonna actually tell you the one from what's called the Kumulipo, and the Kumulipo were like the ancient origin chants that were created by the Ali'i, who were like the royals at the time. And actually, these were not written down until Westernization came in the 18th century. So, like she said, the myths.
Let's call it what it is: forced colonization.
Yes, exactly. Very forced in Hawaii.
Yeah, it's called creation chant. It's the creation.
Yeah,
it tells the creation of the islands and of man and coming through. It's really neat.
Yeah, and so we thought we would share this version with you guys because it also has to do with the legends of Maui, which I'm pretty sure most people have some sort of association with who Maui was. And if you don't, you guys can watch Moana and get sort of a basic understanding of who he was. But in this version, Hina was actually Maui's goddess mother. And she worked on land and she worked making the kapa. Can you shut the door, please? Sorry, she left the door open, it's all loud. So she was a worker and she would pound kapa. And what kapa was it's a type of material that was made out of tree bark. And so you would have to pound it hard enough for it to flatten out in order to be made into clothing or anything you would need the material for. Oh yeah, my mom brought them out for you guys to see, actually. This is what kapa looks like. And there are different versions of this throughout different islands. And so this is the Hawaiian version. Let's see.
It's actually Fijian.
Oh, so this one's Fijian? Which one's Hawaiian? Okay.
So each
I'll
island,
show you anyway.
Each island has their own patterns. You could tell.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, so a lot of our costumes are made out of this, and they would actually wear this as material in the ancient days. It's pretty cool.
This is like the bark of the tree, and then they take mulberry dye and dye their patterns. And so Maui, that's the legend.
So this is where the Maui legend gets tied in. Obviously, she was his mom, but part of one of the Maui legends is that he lassos the sun, right? And that's in the You're Welcome song and Moana and all that.
Yeah, and there's real legends in that song.
Yeah, there are. It's pretty cool. But basically, so they had to dye it with the mulberry plant, but it would take way too long to dry. And so Hina was having all this trouble having to make all this kapa when it was taking way too long. So Maui lassos the sun to bring it closer to her work to allow it to dry a little faster.
To stop it from going down.
Yeah.
Daylight savings time.
But it turns out that Maui was one of the only ones in his family that was as concerned with the workload on his mom as he was. So she felt a little underappreciated, and the labor started getting way too much for her, and she wasn't being appreciated by her husband at the time. And so, as a strong female, empowered female, she decided to take things into her own hands. And the myth says that she wanted to escape from that situation and build a better life for herself. And so she escapes onto a rainbow, and she travels up a rainbow, and she tries to find a home on the sun. But she finds that it's too hot for her there. So that's how she ultimately ends up on the moon and creates her home for herself there. And then the legend ends with you could see her and her gourd in the moon. Oh yeah, she packs up her gourd and she takes it with her. And then the legend says that you could see her in the moon with her gourd. So I'm still trying to understand like what that has to do with, what her role is as the goddess of the moon. That origin story outside of just the fact that she, empowered herself and took herself out of a not thrilling situation. But maybe you guys can help debunk that a little, because there's not much that's reported on that.
Well, like you said, about the tides and the sea.
Oh yeah,
the
there's another version of it too.
With Kanaloa, who's the god of the ocean, who I always thought that was Maui's father, but there's so many legends. So they have a relationship, right, with the sea and the tides and stuff. But it's still the same thing. Hina is like the nurturing mother of so many gods.
Right. Yeah. And mahina is the word for moon, and that embraces, those feminine qualities, like you were saying, like we were talking about before. And then there's also another iteration of this story where Hina actually starts out as the goddess of the ocean, and she leaves the ocean, comes on land, and then she ends up bringing her gourd, which was filled with like stars and the moon, into the sky and releasing it there. So that's like a whole nother version of how she is the goddess of the moon that totally discounts the other version. So we're not entirely sure, but there are different versions, which is kind of cool to think about that one in relation to the sea and the moon, like we were talking about before too.
I'm not entirely sure about how myths evolved in Hawaiian culture, but in the Greek cultures, when everything was city-states, everyone had gods there. Like Artemis did some things for some city-states and was different for other city-states. And as they got bigger and grew closer, they had to merge the gods and sort of create. And so you have all these stories that are sort of conflicting, but also complementary. And maybe that's could have happened with her story as well, that maybe there's two different cultures coming together.
Exactly.
Totally.
That's exactly what happened. There's legends of Hina from the different islands in Hawaii, from Maui, Oahu, and
from Kauai too.
Kauai. So there's all these different legends from the Hawaiian Islands, and then there's all these different legends of the same person in Samoa, Fiji, Tahiti, New Zealand. And it's exactly what you're saying. They all have their own version of it. And
that's cool.
Yeah, in Samoa, she's called Masinga, and Mahina, so Masinga. So their language is very it's the same, but it just changes a little. Like Masinga would be Mahina, the H would to the S.
I'm curious, does she have a relationship at all to the sun god or a sun god? Usually in when there's a moon goddess, there's a sun god in some sort of either brother, sister, or husband, wife, some sort of way.
The sun god is maybe it is Ku. Maybe it is Ku. This
Ku is the god of, well, anyways, go ahead.
You know what? That is so that that just this is touches
Hane?
what is it? Kane
Kane?
is
Kane was one of her husbands.
Kane is, it means male, or
Well, there was Kane, I forget the rest of it, but it was Kane something something. That was one of her husbands. But I don't know if it does.
According to ancienthawaiiangods.com,
Ancient.com. I know we were
There
looking
is
at
a
our
Kane.
mythology.
he's associated with the dawn and the sun and the sky.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
and
I
then
don't
yeah,
I don't
because
know
he's
about that.
the first male on on the land stuff.
Mm.
But you know what's so interesting? This is like, I'm gonna cry. The sun and the moon
Mhm.
have that relationship, right?
Mhm.
And so Randall, so Uncle Greg wrote the song about Grandpa Howard, and Grandpa Howard is the sun, right? He's the Leo sign, and Grandma is Cancer, who's the moon. And he wrote this song when Grandpa died, and it says, "There goes the light into the night, leaving the moon to shine." So it's,
Aw.
you know, he left, but there's Mama Moon. She's still there.
Come on,
And
y'all. I just started my period today.
Wait, there's no full moon. What are you talking about?
I know. It's not the right time, Randall. Hold that
Yeah,
in.
Randall, you need to put that back.
I know. Sorry. You're right. Okay, I've got it together now.
isn't that just profound? Because it's like, oh, that's such the truth, because the light
Yeah.
of the moon is still shining there. And Grandma Dottie, she is like the nurturing mother of all mothers, and that's with Cancer and the moon.
That's kind of an interesting to talk about too, the difference in light sources between the sun and the moon. Oftentimes
Oh,
we
yeah.
recognize the moon as like a dark place, but there
Mhm.
is light that comes from that as well that lights up the night sky. I just thought of that. Thank you.
So there's a lot that goes with that psychologically, right? The moon is associated with feminine qualities, which is a lot of intuition and somatic feelings. So our gut instinct, right, which is a dark place. And it's something that we tend to overlook, especially in the society we live in now. We're taught to use our brains, focus, forget about how we're feeling, do what we're supposed to do, check off our list, and leave the body behind, right? And that is the
The soul
intuition.
behind sounds like it.
Well, sure. I mean, that's where the soul is located, right? And we're taught to use that sun intelligence of the brain, and so yeah, the moon is associated with the darkness. And
Yeah.
if you tap into that, and you know, I'm sure Randall or Hannah can speak to the shadow way better than I can. But the moon also talks about the shadow side of our existence. There it is. Yep.
I don't read about the
there's,
shadow every day.
yeah, there's that going down deep and figuring out who we are and what we feel and what we need as a person. And that's scary.
Yeah, is
And
that
embracing that dark side of ourself,
Yeah.
like the dark side of the moon.
Yep. Who you go, Pink Floyd?
No, I was just thinking in my high school bedroom, I had this whole like dark side of the moon tapestry.
Nice.
We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's so true, because you do, and I know Cancers and water signs go, and that's another thing that's a trip, because Cancer is a water sign, so it's like the moon and the water
Yeah.
get related.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
It goes so deep in emotions.
Mhm.
The moon, the Cancer, your emotions are so strong. But
In the hero's journey, as the hero goes down into what Campbell called the belly of the whale, which is water based, right? That is where you do two things: you meet the divine goddess, and then you atone with the father, and only then can you resurrect and come out of it. And so there's that brain and that body knowledge that you have to gain, and that's what you're talking about with Cancer as water.
yeah, I
Yeah.
love it, and it's
I
so
know,
deep, and it's like Cancers could be so emotional and so deep, but then their power, especially women,
Yeah.
is like, oh my God, you cannot stop them. You know,
Yeah, it's cool putting all these mythological metaphors to all of these life things, because I obviously don't study mythology. So this is really awesome to think about all these things.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, it's
This is
very
where we
fun.
live.
This is just a
All my-
regular Monday night for us. This is our normal type of happy
This is
hour.
normal talk. This is like what we talk about. Yeah. My friends are like, oh God, shut up. If you ruin this movie for me, I swear.
Yeah, don't watch any movies with us.
No.
gods and goddesses with the Greek mythology, lots.
You mean with Hawaiian?
Oh yeah, like when you were talking about Maui lassoing the sun.
Yep.
Right? Like he's the bringer of fire, the bringer of light, the trickster god.
Yeah, good girl.
Oh, thank you. I might be a mythology teacher.
Might be.
Maybe.
When I grow up.
Isn't Hannah going to tell us about a movie? I was so
She
curious
was.
I was
about
gonna
that.
say, yeah. So speaking
great
of
segue.
Yeah, do it.
movies and the moon, I just watched this like a week ago, but it came out in 2012. DreamWorks Rise of the Guardians, little animated adventure movie. So I mean, it's a cute movie. Like, I'm not gonna knock it. It's adorable. I'm not gonna knock it in that way. I should say it's adorable. And the basic premise is that you have these guardians. You have Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Sandman, and eventually Jack Frost, who are the guardians of the hopes and dreams of children. And so they protect children from Pitch Black, who is the boogeyman, who thrives on fear. And the way these guardians come about, they get chosen and they get given their powers by the man in the moon. And so, of course, this is an American movie. It's very much a Western take on all of these stories. But as a feminist mythology scholar, while I was watching it, I couldn't help but be a little irritated that they chose to identify it as the man in the moon, who's, just this vague, abstract, like no origin story idea. And then to endow it with all of this creative power when there are so many amazing lunar goddesses that they could have chosen to use in this film. I mean, so we've already mentioned Artemis, who is associated with birth. Women going into labor would call on her, and she was a midwife goddess, right? So that's a creatrix goddess. We Hecate, a triple goddess, a goddess of the crossroads, goddess of death, life, and rebirth, also associated with the moon. Thank you, Randall.
You're welcome.
Right, so like we have now we know, in the island stories that there's this moon goddess who's also a mother, creatrix figure. So just all of these really wonderful stories about these lunar goddesses who are these powerful, badass creator women, who absolutely, could have looked down on the earth and been like, oh, the children, I need to protect their hopes and dreams. So I'm going to call all of these guardians.
Yes.
And I'm going to give them these powers, and yet in this movie, they decide to do the man in the moon, who's like just boring and doesn't have a backstory. And I just was like, seriously, we had such an opportunity. That was such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. Is there any gods of the moon? Is there any gods of the moon?
Way back in ancient Egypt and in previous societies, mostly in matriarchal societies, sort of the reversed. Women were the sun goddesses.
Oh, that's right. You were saying that.
Yeah.
But the man in the moon thing isn't connected
Not to a mythology. Yeah.
Any lunar male mythology. It's just this random,
It's just like
these
Secular
craters and people are like,
American.
oh, there's a face. And because
Yeah.
patriarchy, the face was obviously a man.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's my little rant about the children's movie.
Yeah.
Because I think
You-
it's sad that they missed an opportunity to bring in these awesome lunar goddesses into a children's story.
Well, even
So.
the archetype of the triple goddess, right? Or like Artemis. I mean, she's the protector of the chaste. Not only is she you know, a midwife, she's looking out for all these girls. And then I just was reminded today in the Trojan War when Agamemnon was going to sacrifice Iphigenia.
Yeah.
And remember that? And like he was like, hey, you want to come marry this hot dude Achilles? And she's like, yeah. She gets there and she's like, psych, I'm gonna kill you because we need wind. And then Artemis was like, ha, psych, no. Sorry, my daughter just tried to call me. She's like, psych, no, like taking her, and she became like a high priestess for Artemis. And then she killed what was his name? Starts with an A, I can't remember. Aketon. Remember he caught her, like what he was a hunter, he was out with his homies and he was like catching everything.
Artemis killed him.
Yes. Yeah. And
no, I thought didn't she turn him into an animal?
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. So he saw her naked and then she was like, dude, you're a stag. And then his own hunting dogs ripped him to shreds.
Yes.
So that was cool.
So she
she killed him, but just like for entertainment. She was like, watch this, you're a dog. So or a stag.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, why couldn't she be on the moon? Like, hello, like that would have been a great story.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And also I would like to comment on that darkness as the evil thing, because that's it again, right? We have that somatic experience of the body and it's the feminine intuition, and yet we demonize it all the time. In, you know, a lot of major religions or mythologies or things, it's always a bad thing and we're taught to be scared of it, which makes me sad.
And even now, and I don't have children, so I am speaking from what I have heard from my many friends who have gone through the process of being pregnant and giving birth. But even now, like, pregnancy is still such a mystery to Western medicine that they like. So again, right, you have like that darkness of the womb, this mystery of creation, and again,
the birth waters that come
women,
gushing forth.
Yep.
And because it's women, there's just there tends to be this like, well, we don't really know, it's fine. Like, this is kind
Women
of
are a mystery, it must be the moon.
Kind of works. Yeah, it's just that whole thing.
Wait, women are mysterious. I don't know, and I can't see anything. I just don't understand why they're so mysterious.
Very mysterious.
I was watching a video earlier today of like some of the earlier goddesses and like the statues and things they found in grain bins. And a lot of them, like right around the pelvic area, they literally had the labyrinth carved there. And I just was cracking up. I was just like, it's not that complicated. I guess it's been that complicated for 9,000 years.
Do they have to follow the labyrinth to find the clitoris?
Right? Exactly. It's like, bruh, it ain't that hard. It's like, listen.
Mysterious.
I can't figure it out. Oh my god. Oh my god.
There is a mystery to the moon as well, which is always like the mystical energy of the moon.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, there's something interesting, switching over to science real quick. The fact that like the dark side of the moon, it's not just it. So it is the side that we don't see. However, it is the same side all the time. So like the dark side of the moon, we never see it from Earth due to the way the Earth rotates around the sun and the way the moon rotates around the Earth. The entire world, 365 days a year, every year sees exactly the same side of the moon. So, which just adds right to that mystery. So like we think of the dark side of the moon as mysterious, but it actually like it is. We can't see it from Earth. We have we got nothing from Earth on the dark side of the moon, which I thought when I learned that, I thought that was really fascinating.
I
That
never,
is cool.
Either.
wow. That's
Just
so-
like a woman, only revealing the littlest amount of herself. Do you either of you want to speak, or any of you want to speak on the triple goddess and what that means?
yeah.
The different phases of the moon. Waning,
Hannah, you want to take this
waxing.
one?
I mean, I
Bueller.
can.
Yeah, do it.
I don't know I don't know as I don't know it as well connected with the phases of the moon. But you know, the triple goddess, of course, as an archetype. So she's going to look differently in different cultures and manifest differently. But just the general idea of the triple goddess is that she manifests in three ways. So you have the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And the maiden manifestation is the feminine prior to motherhood. I'm going to go ahead and say this does not have anything to do with what we think of virginity in the 21st century, because that's bullshit. The maiden is specifically, yes. The maiden is specifically a woman before she has gotten pregnant and given birth. It doesn't even have to do with marriage. It is specifically before she's given birth.
It's
So
related.
then obviously
to
you have the mother. Yeah, right. So then you have the mother as the next manifestation.
With the full moon,
then,
full belly, full womb.
Mhm.
Full moon, full
Yeah.
womb.
There you go.
And then the crone is the old wise woman, the postmenopausal woman, the woman who has come into her own and is no longer typically
by the
explained as
confines
like
of social mores and
no
niceties.
longer cares. Yeah, like no longer cares what society might expect
Moana's
from her.
grandmother.
Oh, I know.
So like all of like the witches in our fairy tales are typically associated with the crone.
And there's
she can
two sides,
be
right?
two
There's
sides,
two sides
like
to the crone, right?
well, there, yeah. I mean, are you talking about like the shadow feminine?
I'm talking about like the fairy godmother or like Cruella.
Right. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like the positive, happy crone manifestation, and then there's like the scary. However, that gets into the whole duality thing, right? Because like the feminine isn't good or bad. It's not good or evil. It's not dark or light. But yes, in fairy tales and folklore especially, we have like the happy fairy godmother who like grants wishes, and then we have like the creepy scary witches that eat children in the forest.
But in either manifestation, they're always like asexual characters for the most part. Like
Yeah,
they're like
so
women on
yeah,
the fringes of society that like like pose some type of threat to the patriarchy and the nuclear family and reproduction, and oftentimes they don't have any kids themselves.
Yeah, they're demonized. Absolutely. It isn't until
not
you
all
get
the
into
time,
more,
but like oftentimes.
in more modern cultures or modern stories, they're not demonized. I think actually in the last probably 20 years or so, that's been sort of a rich exploration, even through Hollywood and romance genre reading, exploring that older woman's second life, if you will, instead of life being over, life being renewed. So instead of a waning moon, you're getting sort of like an extended vacation.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well,
because when you said that, I was thinking of like VC Andrews when she has like the evil grandmother maternal crone, and like the fourth book in the series is a prequel and extends her story and like gives her backstory. But you're saying it's like extending her story on the other end, like as like in her old age.
Well, even like Diane Keaton's movies lately, right? They've all been about older women rediscovering their sexuality, rediscovering their desirability, becoming who they are, becoming like they're already okay with who they are, but now they get to live that life authentically, which before women after, birthing years were, yes, such an age, were kind of, shuffled off the stage and said, here's your gold watch, go, watch your grandkids grow up or something.
Yeah.
So
well, but that connects to the fact that because the triple goddess is associated with, you know, life, death, and rebirth, or birth, death, and rebirth. And so I mean, it's pretty obvious how the mother manifestation is associated, because that is the one who actually gives birth. But both the maiden and the crone are also associated with life, death, and rebirth. And the crone specifically is often understood as, you know, taking the cast off, taking the old, taking the tired, taking the worn, and ushering it into the underworld, whatever underworld experience we're talking about, and providing everything that is needed, providing the vessel for that rebirth in the form of a maiden. And so even if you're talking about, you know, the way that media and people and individuals are exploring post-menopause years for women, you still have that kind of that death and rebirth, because of that dying to what the world wanted, and dying to familial expectations, and even dying a little bit to, you know, the cycles of the body, right?
Yeah,
like post-menopause, you're free from those menstrual cycles and all of that, in order, you know, and it's oftentimes, it's not just a quick switch from post-menopause into like this renewed life and energy and excitement. And so, you know, there's a period of that underworld of figuring out like, well, now I'm an empty nester. Now what do I do? Or, you know, now not only are my kids grown, but they have their own kids. This is a whole other, like, what does this phase mean for me? Or I'm retiring, or my partner's retiring, and just all of that. And so again, yeah, that's associated with the triple goddess when it comes to the life cycle.
And
And
that's
that's
the
interesting. We
waning.
have the same three, like we have the three stages of like women's life with the triple goddess, but we also split pregnancy into 3 trimesters
We do.
as well.
Mhm.
I don't know what the connection is there, but it
That's
just
interesting.
popped into my head.
Well,
How we
in the
measure
first
that.
three,
And then 3 is the magic number.
you're
right?
like building the uterus, right? In the first 3 months. And then,
Yeah.
so there's
Building your
that,
child's uterus in utero.
yeah,
And
you're building.
all of your grandchildren were contained inside of you while you're gestating your daughter.
Yeah,
Or all of, yeah, your
Yeah.
daughter's children.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
insane. Yeah.
Like the emotion code one.
Can we say also a little bit about the snake and its relation to the goddess, just since we're talking about the moon and like the 30-day or the cycle, the shedding of the
Venus?
skin?
Oh.
Well, or no, just like how the snake has been demonized, but the snake is actually a symbol of the goddess because of the shedding of the skin, and because of the
Yeah.
waxing and waning of
The
the moon.
renewal.
And it, you know, wasn't until the
Death and rebirth.
patriarchal influences on religion and mythologies and stories and life that the snake was demonized instead of being revered as a powerful symbol.
Yeah, and of
Well, and
course, one
even-
of the most famous snake goddesses, the Minoan snake goddess, holding the.
There's, yeah,
Pull her
absolutely.
up.
There are a
Sorry.
lot of, well, there are a lot of goddess representations with a snake involved. But then also, like, I always think, when I think about snakes as far as like death and rebirth, I always think of, I'm going to say this wrong, I don't know where the emphasis goes, but the Ouroboros, right?
Yeah.
The serpent
The
eating its
snake
tail.
eating itself.
Yeah.
That exactly has to do with death and rebirth, and how
And the
that is
circle,
a connected cycle. You can't have the one without the other.
Right. And then you have the circle, and then you have the spiral, which are feminine symbols. The spiral is the oldest feminine symbol known to historians and men or whoever. So there you go.
Can you guys speak more on this one? What is her name again?
She's a Minoan snake goddess, so from ancient Greece. And that figure specifically is in, where did I take that photo? I think on Crete, from the
Yes.
Palace of Knossos, right?
Crete.
Yep. And of course, Crete is the island where Joni Mitchell stayed and wrote her Blue album. She stayed in
Most
some
important fact.
Neolithic caves. Okay, it is one of the most important
No,
facts
I
about
know.
Crete. Thank you.
No, I wasn't being sarcastic this one time, I promise. I was actually like saying it for real.
I love all the different legends and mythology. There's so many around the world and stuff. It's so interesting. And we've been studying the Hawaiian myth, so I don't know.
Is there a snake god? Probably not.
There's the Mo'o. There's the Mo'o.
Well, what's interesting is the Minoan goddess, her name I think is Astarte, which that's one of the goddesses that kind of evolve into who we know today as Demeter through Osiris and Isis's story, and like all of that through the ancient Greece down into from the Minoan to the Greeks to the Romans. So she's essentially the same goddess. She just sort of adapts to the cultures that take her on.
Wow.
And so,
Well, and
but yeah.
Astarte, she was a Canaanite
Yeah, and
goddess as
there's
well.
the same name. Yeah,
She shows up. Yeah, she shows up in the Hebrew scriptures, as well as a Hebrew goddess, as a consort to Yahweh.
Yeah,
and
there's an interesting connection there
yeah.
with her because she's supposed to have a sister, and then I've been looking a little bit at that because I'm, as you guys know, studying Castor and Pollux and their myth for my dissertation. But Helen and Clytemnestra were born at the exact same time from the same eggs, and you never hear of Clytemnestra. Like, they have their own stories, but they're tragic. And so the female part of that, and then here we have the female part being discounted again, right? If she's a counterpart of Yahweh. And so we get that imbalance, which is interesting.
Are they the same names? Is it the same name?
The goddess Astarte, yeah, so that name is pretty ancient, but it does travel through cultures. She's also associated with oh dear, Asherah, that's the one, and Anat or Anath.
Anath
in
is her
Egyptian
sister. Yeah, that's her
mythology,
sister.
yeah, okay. And then so Astarte, I believe, is the Canaanite name, and then in the Hebrew, she's Ashtoreth, but it's the same goddess, and yeah, associated with Asherah and Anath. Again, depending on the story, right?
I wonder, do you know if she's associated or evolved into Esther, the goddess of fertility? Right, and that's what Easter comes, like that whole mythology.
Okay, yeah. Ostara.
Yeah, I wonder if that's like
it's possible, actually. Yeah, because Astarte and Astoreth mean womb or of the womb, and I don't remember if Ostara, if we know that etymology or not, but definitely a mother creatrix goddess. For sure.
As far as I've read on the topic, it's unclear and people are just theorizing.
Yeah. Well, and there's that whole big magic idea, right? Of where the Greeks called it the genius, right? Where like there's an idea that's given to you by the muse, and it's not just given to you, it's offered to you. And if you don't want it, it goes to someone else. And so that's why sometimes people have similar ideas in books, movies, whatever. There's these muses floating around giving you these ideas. And so, and it could be community too, right?
But that's really interesting because so many inventions and technological advances and all these things like pop up simultaneously. Like look at like Tesla and Edison, right? Like these muses are just dropping hints all around, seeing who gets it first. I love that.
And that's that speaks to the archetypal, of course, Jung, and
that's what I was gonna say. I was like, sounds like the archetypes of the collective unconscious.
Yeah, and it could be, right? But instead of making it feminine and making it shareable and a muse, right, coming from an external like idea, it had to be paternalized and turned into this, river of similarities that we all share or something. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm on an anti-young kick right now. I'm sure I'll get off it soon, but right now I'm just like, men.
We'll see. Men. That's a great note to end on, Deb. We'll quote you on that. We'll make a shirt. Men by Deb Maroulis.
There's so many similarities in the different mythologies because like Kanaloa is the god of the ocean, and so there's Neptune, right? That
Mhm.
and
Poseidon.
Poseidon.
Poseidon, and you got the moon, Hina, and who's the goddess? Who's the goddess?
Artemis, Hecate.
So those are the ones.
There's a couple, yeah.
Yeah,
And
depends
that's
on
like
which
the
era.
beautiful thing about the moon, right? Is as like Hannah was saying, the dark side is the same for everyone. The light side is the same for everyone. And so as far as like a common thing that unites all humans, that we all have the same experience, like the moon might be one of those only things in our environment that we can say is a true universal human experience. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's going to bring a tear to my eye. Right? Oh, should we end on Feifel?
Do it.
No? Somewhere out there, right? And even though I know how very far apart we are, it helps to think we might be wishing on the same bright star. But the moon isn't a star, sorry.
I got chills because it's so true.
I'm gonna go
It's
outside
that beauty,
tonight. I'm
it's
gonna look at
that
the moon.
uniting.
I'm gonna think of y'all.
Okay, yep, that's tonight's homework. I love you all. Everyone go outside and look at the moon and think of each other.
Hey, well, can I say
Nice.
one more thing?
Yeah.
It's really a trip. So when we were in, I think it was the time that you were with us in Maui, in Hawaii.
Maybe.
We were on the cultural trip in Jenisa, 12-year-old Jenisa.
Jenisa.
We were like, I'm going, look at that beautiful Hawaiian moon. And it was like a full moon, and it was like
What did I say?
It
incredible.
was Janisa's butt.
And Jenisa goes, it's the same moon everywhere.
But that's so beautiful and poetic in its simplicity and its power, right?
Not at all adolescent.
That way.
Same moon
I don't even remember saying
everywhere. I'm going, you're right. it's all the same moon.
Now
all
I
around
probably
the
would have
world.
said that in a more profound way, but
Right.
But yeah, that's the last moon story.
it's true
But
though.
it's so true.
So even though we're all in different places, we're underneath the same moonlight.
Same
Mhm.
bright star.
Reminds me of the Bruno Mars song "Talking to the Moon."
I know.
This was super
All right.
fun.
So
Thanks
it's
for
a
having us.
marvelous night for a moon dance. Get outside, go look at the moon. It's currently waning. And join us next week on Happy Hour. If you have any suggestions on topics you would like to hear us discuss, drop them in the comments or message us. And we're super excited to see everyone next week.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us, Jean and Nisa. We love you.
Nice meeting you. I love the subject.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.